Yo, what's up, everybody? It's me, DisBearity here. And earlier today, CA had a roundtable for Total War 40K or Warhammer 40K. And of course, as me, I have real life, so I missed it. So now I'm here to finally watch it for the first time in order, to break this down and talk to you guys with it while as we're going on through. And I'm excited to see like what they're going to be talking about today. Like I really am excited because my friend posted this to me when I woke up somewhere. It's like, but damn, I got work. But before we get into this, definitely consider liking and subscribing if you guys enjoy Total War and Warhammer. Now let's go ahead and hop on in. I'm ready for it. I am ready.
We've taken it so much further with this game.
This cutscene, even though we've seen it multiple times already,
everywhere.
it's still good. It still looks good. But I hope, I don't know, I hope they still add in the traditional Total War UI.
That's huge even for Total War scale.
No, for sure. I mean, this one still looks great. It does remind me of Dawn of War, though. But I just still hope that they added the traditional Total War UI. But, man, imagine calling in reinforcements similar to, what do you call it? Land domination multiplayer. I think that's pretty badass, but we'll see, though. We'll talk. Let's see.
Welcome to Total War Warhammer
They have to
40,000
say
Developer
Anastasia.
Roundtable. I'm Nastya, Senior Community Manager on Total War.
And I'm Josh, Head of Player Engagement on Total War.
Joshua.
Today, we are joined by some of our development team to give you the very first glimpse into
that wallpaper. I need that wallpaper.
40,000
I definitely
will
need
bring.
it. I like it.
Exactly. You've seen the trailer by now, and today we're going to be here giving you the broad strokes of what you can expect from our next title.
And before I go any further, I will say this. I'm a person that rarely pre-orders games. Now, I have a personal policy, right? My policy is this. When it comes to PC gaming, right? Because I'm mostly PC gamer, I do not spend more than 60 to 70% on a video game unless it's a game series that I like. So, example, with Total War CA and Total War, or maybe Obsidian, stuff like that, I enjoy their products. I know I'm going to get a pretty good product, and I would usually end up pre-ordering or, buying their game. Now, for the most case, though, this video or what they're telling us here today will determine on if I pre-order once, day one, once it release, once they give us that release date or slash, pre-order day or whatnot. So yeah.
So before we begin, let's get some introductions out the way. Dave, care to kick us
And trust
off?
me, I don't pre-order a lot of
Dave
games.
Petrie. I'm the product owner for
I
Battles
don't-
on Total
that- to
War.
me,
and I'm
pre-ordering is like a
gonna try
scam,
and
you know,
spend this
in a
interview not
sense.
hogging all the time
Talk about that later.
Hi, I'm Ian Roxburgh. I'm the Principal Creative Director.
Hi, I'm Simon Mann. I'm
And
the
this
lead
must
designer,
be the
primarily
A team of
focused on the
CA, of
campaign
course.
gameplay.
So, this game has been something our fans been waiting for a long time. So, how does it feel to finally reveal it?
Oh, it's been brilliant. We've been working on the game for such a while. To finally be able to come out and talk about it with our fans is really great.
And also keep in mind that content creators, a lot bigger than me, of course, they've been playing a build since like May, or they played a build since May of this year. So now we're in December, 2025 now? We're about to enter into 2026. So I could probably see
So
this
much
still a late
enthusiasm
26
for this setting within the
release date or
team.
early
You
27.
just walk around the office and everyone's painting minis and creating armies and playing the game, and it's such a great atmosphere and so much excitement and passion for this setting. It's really nice to be able to actually talk about it openly for the first time.
No, for sure.
So when you sat down with that massive list of every possible future Total War title, what was it that encouraged you to settle on Total War Warhammer 40,000 as our next adventure?
Money.
Well, a number of things, really. I mean, first of all, this setting is
And also,
just
they already have the
made
assets
for a
for the
Total
most
War
part.
game. And
For
having done
fantasy.
the Fantasy trilogy with
Yeah.
Games Workshop, we've formed a really good relationship with them over the years.
That's good.
And just that passion and the idea that we wanted to bring Total War to the stars, everything just aligned, and it's pretty much a
That's good.
no-brainer.
Money,
This is just the perfect project
Games
to
Workshop,
do next. So,
they had it already.
yeah, we're
Models
really
already
excited about
done
it.
for the most part.
setting isn't like anything we did before and explored before. So, what was the vision that was guiding your design approach?
Right at the very top level, there is no peace amongst the stars.
Of course,
and
there's
that's
never
the
peace.
guiding principle for everything we do.
There's no good
only
ones.
war in this
Exactly.
game. It's like there's the scars of previous wars for thousands of years. There's ongoing war wherever you go. It's all around you, and you'll leave scars of the wars you're engaged in for future generations. So it's all about that. But it's also about how you engage with the game and how your faction, the choices you make, the decisions you make, even the kind of units you fight and how they fight. You can design them. There's a level of customization in the
Okay,
game where
good.
you can define the way you fight your war, the way you
Good.
choose to, and the way you define your stories, and how that internal narrative develops throughout your experience.
Wait. So what he's saying with designing, right? So is he saying that we can create our own mechs in a weird way? Now, if I'm wrong on that, let me know. But I think that's what he kind of meant. We can change a couple pieces on our mechs and stuff.
Well, you've just touched on them there, but the factions. So this is a setting with a massive, rich, diverse cast of factions and characters and settings. How did you go about settling on Space Marines, Astra Militarum, Orcs, and Eldari as our starting races?
So I think one thing we wanted to do was seize the opportunity to make some really cool asymmetric factions. I think the Warhammer 40,000, certainly the tabletop and the universe itself, offer us a lot of opportunities to bring asymmetry between these factions. They're all very different.
Yeah.
Right? If you look around this room and all the different kind of 4 factions you see around you, they're all going to play and feel very different to one another.
And that's a good thing, because versus like historical, right? Historical, Total War, all the units play very similar, but you could give them different, advantages and disadvantages and stuff, right? But for the most part, they play pretty similar. But when it comes to, like I said, fantasy and also 40K, each race should be playing differently. Like Space Marine should be an all around faction. Orcs should be a highly aggressive faction, but low morale. Astra Militarum should be low morale, but they have weaponry. Eldari should be maybe like what do you call it? Hit and run in a sense. So
that obviously meant we couldn't do all of them at once, right? We had to pick just a limited number because we really wanted to put the effort in to make each one very special. We decided to start with the Space Marines. For us, we think they're kind of one of the most important factions for our telling of the Warhammer 40,000
Oh, that we can download that background.
They are this elite troops. They are the kind of scions of the Emperor. Their goal is to defend humanity, protect it from threats both within and without. But they're very limited, right? There's not lots of them. So when you're playing as them, you're not fielding tens of thousands of troops, right? You're fielding
so it's
maybe
like a small,
200
it's like a small bunch.
But each one of those is worth 100 of any enemy. So they're really fun to play. And you're not controlling lots of units. So there's this kind of
basically what he's saying is like
that.
Basically what he's saying is like you have like 100 troops versus like let's say like probably 1,000 orcs within a regiment, right? But those Space Marines of 100 is like worth 300, stuff like that.
We also really wanted to bring a faction that feels very Total War. We decided to go with the Astra Militarum because they are billions of men and women. Once again, they're all kind of part of the Imperium of Man. They're trying to defend humanity from the Xenos threats. But there are lots of them, right? Like they are massed forces, regiments, there is artillery, there is front lines. It's something you'd see as a very military faction, right? Even down to their industrial complex where they're building industry on planets and developing them in order to kind of fuel the machine and fund the development of more like tanks and infantry. So they kind of come in as a really nice kind of contrast to that, and a faction that I think a lot of more traditional Total War players will really vibe with because it's got a lot of that kind of heraldry to it, as it were. I think the next faction that we chose to do was the Orcs. The Orcs are a really big part of the universe, but they're the enemy, right? We needed someone for the kind of Imperium to be battling against. And the Orcs, they are massed green tide of kind of chaos and energy. That's
DLC is going to be expensive this one, y'all.
Metal sticks and axes and whatever they can jerry-rig together. Rocket launchers on sticks. But also like vehicles, right? Which they've repurposed from Imperial scrap. Right, they're literally deconstructing the Imperium to build their own kind of war machines, as it were. And they offer this kind of beautiful energy to the more kind of military regimented side that you get with the Imperium. Lastly, we chose to do the Eldari. We really wanted to kind of push
Eldari's
the
my
boat
least
out a
favorite
little
army.
bit and sort of really push what it means to be a faction within a Total War game, right?
In case y'all don't know, my favorite factions when it comes to Warhammer 40K are the Blood Angels and Eldari,
like
just in general.
They play totally differently to
With
anything I think we've ever done in the
Necrons.
past, right? I don't think we've done anything quite like this. They aren't a faction which is built for kind of massed combat, right? Like it's not big armies fighting one another. Every loss to the Eldari doesn't get returned, right? Their souls are being taken away by the Chaos Gods. Like they are literally kind of fighting to death to try and protect the universe and the galaxy itself. So you're not fighting, once again, as say, in this kind of frontline style aspects. You're using the webways and you're using your kind of stealth and your advanced technology, right, which none of the other factions have available to them, to actually kind of achieve your goals, right? And your goals aren't always just conquest, right? Your goals may actually be just kind of don't allow this awful thing to happen. Stop this calamity that could be occurring to the galaxy. Like everyone else is still trying to kill you while you're trying to do that, but you know what your mission is and what you need to achieve, and you approach it with kind of grim determination.
So how did that affect the design approach?
So I think the main thing is when we took the kind of Space Marines, right? Like, as I say, I think for us they're a really important faction for what kind of we want to tell in our story of the
Keep in mind,
this
they're going to add in
universe.
all chaos factions.
They're not
for sure.
like a traditional Total War faction in a lot of ways. They are a very limited force, and so it's going to be a really fun gameplay style. If you are these kind of superhuman troops, but I guess your kind of weakness is you're limited in number, right? Like you can take on any foe on those battlefields, but you've also got to make sure you're kind of measuring your losses, right? Because you're not building infrastructure, right? You're not kind of able to build new constructions in the same way as maybe the other factions. So you are really reliant on these troops that you've brought in to fight the battle, but it's also really fun
when it comes to the infrastructure.
And what about Astra Militarum? They are quite different.
They are. They're a lot more of a traditional, I like to call it a Total War faction, you know, massed ranks of
artillery,
infantry lines and artillery. If you want that more Total War experience when you play this game, I'd pick up the Astra Militarum. They're definitely hitting that right on their head.
How is it that they're emulating that traditional Total War experience?
Well, as I said, it's more about building up resources, supply, building infrastructure,
that'll be a funny
recruit an army.
So how you just be like, how did I lose?
As a core. With some of the other factions, we're moving away from that and trying very asymmetrical ideas that you progress through the game in slightly different ways. Whereas with the Astra Militarum, they are the humans throughout the galaxy. Right? So, you know, it's more grounded in what we would say Total War has been as a staple for so many years. So to me, that's my meat and drink.
And what about Eldari and Orcs?
The Eldari have been really interesting for us, right? Like, as I say, I think sometimes a faction comes
He's
along
really
and
excited
like,
to talk about the Orcs.
They're so unique that you kind of have to do them justice, right? Like, they are a dying race due to a kind of major cataclysm that has occurred to them many, many kind of eons ago.
Yes.
So they are kind of trying to prevent these cataclysms occurring, kind of more tragedy that could befall kind of humanity or any other race in the galaxy. They're not a faction that will fight toe-to-toe. You're utilizing your webway gates as a kind of traversal mechanism to move quickly from place to place, including moving to your craft world, a kind of off-map setup piece, which is actually where you're recruiting all your units.
Too. Okay.
You're setting up your various shrines, which allow you to access your more elite troops going through. So there's this really interesting gameplay here that, once again, a bit like the Space Marines, you're quite limited in number. Your troops are not a kind of infinite resource that you can use.
Okay, I want to touch on that. So you said the Eldari has like an off-map kind of mechanic, so that means that they're going to have like a fourth layer in terms of the campaign. So like, you know, of course you have your campaign map, then, you know, with the Eldari, if you go back to your webway or your craft world, right, you get this off-map experience where you're not even part of the galaxy, you're in a whole nother, you know, of course you're in the webway, you know, or doing XYZ, you know, recruiting your units from outside, and then you come in. So actually, that's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. And like you said, you know, with the Eldari, you're doing this hit and run. I guess they're going to be like a hit and run faction, you know? You come in, do your job, come out, and then, you know, you want to plan it, but I don't think they'll be able to hold that plan, of course.
You're actually kind of having to, once again, use them carefully because they're all a glass cannon. Every soul lost is a soul not returned, right? So you have to really pick your fights and kind of challenge your enemies.
Yeah.
And then there are orcs. And then there are orcs.
Go on, Dave, do it.
They're much less about that sort of like weird, sneaky stuff like hiding. They're much more upfront about building up a huge mass of boys and basically smashing through the solar system, through the galaxy in a big, terrible war, right? When that comes to the campaign, there are actually some sort of parallels with the Astra Militarum, for example, in that there are loads of them. They are building up resources, but they are much, much more about building up momentum and continuing to fight and continuing to it's crumping with the lads.
Here it is, though.
It's continuing
oh my
to fight
God!
And
Imagine
to push forward
if
the
they
front line,
okay,
and making sure that the boys don't get bored and start fighting each other. Right?
Interesting
It's about
thought.
taking him and his lads.
Are they going with the like a paradox route with this game too? Because imagine if the galaxy map the way is you know, is the way that that they're currently touting, right, or going for. Imagine an event. Think about it, y'all. Imagine an event coming up, right? That's like, hey, there's extra dimensional race coming on through the galaxy, right? Maybe, or something of the sort. You know, it's Tyranids, and Tyranids are just like, they're not playable yet, but they're in the game. Just think of it like that.
Smashing along,
fucking badass.
and keeping that momentum up.
It gives you that. It gives you that
always got something
paradox
interesting to sink a chopper into.
Dave likes the orcs.
I love orcs.
Same thing like Necrons, you know, even though these can be DLC. We know they're going to be DLC.
You've grown the scale for what we're fighting for from provinces to planets. How are you going to capture both the small details of planetary warfare and obviously the wider conflict?
So it kind of starts with you're fighting on a planet, right? You're fighting in a battle, a kind of real-time experience. You've got thousands of troops kind of charging across the surface of a hive world, right? Kind of fighting in the streets of a hive city, firing powerful bombardments kind of at one another, either from orbit or from off field, right? And you're kind of fighting to take that hive city, maybe back for the Imperium in some manner. Zooming out a bit further than that, that was a battle on a planet, right? So once you complete that battle, you're now on the planet. You captured the region. Well done, the hive city, it's now yours. Because you've taken that hive city, you now have access to further resources and large populations of it, like billions of people are living in these hive cities. That affects your kind of campaign across that planet, right? Because you've captured that hive city, you've now got a staging point to advance across the other regions of the planet, each of which themselves would be a different kind of battle type.
So you're telling me that each planet is basically literally its own campaign. So when you're on that planet for quite some time, that's literally like a total war campaign, you know, in and of itself. And then once you leave that planet and go to like another system, it's a whole new campaign. Okay.
Kind of zooming up further to that, you then have your kind of fleets.
It gives you like that MMO feel
like
too.
Your fleets are able to drop forces to where they need to be into kind of certain key regions. They're able to support with, as say, off-map bombardments, both in campaign and in battle. But then they're also able to kind of just ferry your troops. They are transport as well as that. And obviously, that's because you're not fighting on one planet.
Yeah,
you're fighting on many planets.
Industrial mining. Okay,
you're traveling your forces kind of to many different front lines, many different battlefields, trying to take control of this overall planetary system. So your fleets are kind of your key motivator for that. And obviously, it's not just traveling planet to planet, right? Like there are anomalies, there are things to do in the space between as well. So there's a strategy layer that you're kind of having to interact with. We didn't stop there. Like, even better than that, like we are now offering you kind of a further context, right? Like, much like campaigns give a context to your battle, right? Capturing that hive city changed the way that you play. We are now saying that actually your campaign matters. The result of this campaign will change the kind of future of the galaxy itself, because we've moved up to this other layer where you're fighting in what we call a crusade theater, which is a kind of area of the galaxy which is seen as a kind of hot point for conflict, with factions fighting one another. And in these key areas, you are fighting in systems. You're also sometimes just fighting pivotal battles as well. And that's the idea behind it, is you now have a context for it. It's not just a campaign and it's a one and done thing and you had great fun and it's over. It's a campaign, you had great fun, look what it's done to your next steps. What campaigns trigger from that? What battles come from it? How do you advance your faction after that, so when you go into the next campaign, maybe you are more prepared or even more powerful than you were previously.
Okay. So the scars of your campaigns and your battles, they're all going to be shown on that crusade theatre level. But what's the worst thing you could do to a planet?
You can destroy planets entirely.
Yes.
So
pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. Unlike previous games as well, we obviously have let you raise cities, but there was always an opportunity to rebuild. But in the world of kind of Total War Warhammer 40,000, we are actually letting you just blow up and destroy a planet. It is a permanent action. There's no backseas, there's no takebacks.
So that planet doesn't come back.
But also remember, it's not something that can be done frivolously, right? Like blowing up a planet by the Imperium is something requiring multiple layers of authorization. They would much rather throw away 1 billion human souls to reclaim a world than destroy it.
Yeah.
However, there are extreme circumstances, and we do let you push the button.
Fantastic. Well, assuming we have anywhere to fight, I have a very big question for you. There's been a lot of speculation about it. You know, it's such an integral part of Total War, and fans have gone back and forth on how we'd do it, how we wouldn't do it. Battles. How did you approach designing battles in Total War Warhammer 40,000?
Oh, there we go. That is a massive question, and I think with anything of this scale, like the first thing that you do is you go to the source material, right? You go straight into the codexes and you go into the tabletop and you play it and you really feel it and you get to know all of the factions, all the potential factions and the different combinations of things that can happen. You look at all the toys and the fun stuff that you can do there, and then you start to think, well, how can we sort of transpose that to Total War, right? And obviously scale is a big thing for us. So we thought, well, we need to make sure we have ways to bring in all sorts of stuff, make sure that you can, keep to sort of supplying the battlefield with your powerful units. So something that came as a real sort of natural occurrence was we have to have reinforcement play a really big part. in what battles are.
Yeah.
Again, not only for the scale, but also to create that sort of intrinsic link between the campaign. So now when we're playing, for example, Space Marines, who you've got sat on your fleet really, really matters, right? Because those are the people that are going to be able to come in via drop pod, slam into the battlefield. We talk about destruction. They can knock down buildings, right? They can destroy elements of the battlefield, change the battlefield, and they can start killing things where you need them to be, right? So the Space Marines can become all about that sort of like, Swiss Army knife approach to battle, right?
And this is a fundamental part of the tabletop game.
Absolutely.
All the factions, it's those reinforcements are a key part of that flavour, and it's just, it has to be therefore part of the Total War experience of it.
Yeah,
absolutely. So when you've got your units that you have specific roles for, they can sometimes now show up where you need them to if you sort of sequester them away in the right places. And we have different methods for each faction. Some are much more traditional. The Guard have less ways of interjecting directly into the battlefield. They might have to throw wave after wave of their own men up the battlefield in order to, arrive in time to make sure that they get there before the last unit that is probably now flagging might be running away. So to replace them in time to keep them hold that line. You have the Orcs in a similar fashion. They do have some incredible teleportation technology. You wouldn't believe it, but they do. So they can really zap things into the battlefield and do some pretty wild things there too. And then of course you have the Eldari with their webway gates and things like that. So the ability to sort of pop up in unexpected places. All of these methods allow you to bring your toys to the table where you need them, right? And that was a really, really big part of making sure we captured this and sort of evolved the gameplay. I think a lot of people look at this setting and they kind of go, wow, that's really futuristic. And they're right, it feels very futuristic, but a core realization that we had was that it's not a realization we only had, this is it is science fantasy, right? So there is so much fantasy wrapped into it. And when you think about the conflicts that go on, yes, there is cover. Yes, there's a lot of ranged combat going on, but there's also like loads of punching, like so much punching, loads of crumping that goes on. Like you really have a lot of melee going on in these battles. There are lots of forces will sort of mass up and crash into one another. Practically every unit has some sort of combination of a thing that they can shoot you with and a thing that they can punch you with, right? Like in some cases, literally power fists, right? There are like so many sort of very sort of familiar elements actually to it when you start to see and realize that there's a lot of sort of like fantasy drives in there, and so those massed armies still happen. There will be massive front lines crashing against one another. So yeah, there's loads of gutsy
it's really
stuff.
like the reinforcement mechanics, the way you fight, even within a faction. It's so much more connected to that campaign experience and how you've teed up that particular setup for the battle, and that's key. And it's fundamental to the core design as well. But also going back to understanding that setting and the Warhammer 40,000 universe to that degree, it really brings out that in the game itself as well. So having a team that's just so ingrained in this for so many years, like Dave, and it really helps bring out those detail that it makes it authentic, and that's just such a fundamental
sexy as Dreadnought I see there.
Franchise pillar is authenticity, and you can just see it coming out in this game in all the details as well as the bigger picture. So I think that's key to what we need to do to bring that out in the game.
And again, on that connection level, we really want to make sure that we capture, again, the scale of these conflicts. So when we're fighting these battles, they're not just like one battle happening in an isolated pocket. You are the flashpoint. You are the most important force fighting in the most important place that will decide the event on effectively that continent, right? But there is war everywhere, all across the planet's surface, right? So you really are that flashpoint. When you show up to battles, you often have a purpose.
So the battle's technically already going, but you're there as a flashpoint. So you just kind of just drop in there and you're continuing that battle.
Things that you are trying to achieve. It might be like, securing an orbital cannon, for example.
That's interesting.
Stop people from using it. But also you'll be joining and fighting against forces that are already present on the battlefield. It is not uncommon that you'll rock up as Space Marines and find that there are a bunch of Astra Militarum about to be overwhelmed by a bunch of sneaky Eldari. Or it might be that you show up as Orcs and find that there's loads of really great Astra Militarum to beat the hell out of, right? So it's that kind of level of trying to, again, capture that scale, make sure we really are doing justice to the sheer volume of stuff and different units that are going to show up in this game.
So we've spoken a lot about Total War Warhammer 40,000, but what is it that really the Total War's bringing here? What is it that our game is doing differently to other games in the 40,000 universe?
Well, okay, I think the main thing here for us is scale. It's a fundamental Total War franchise pillar, for starters. but we've taken it so much further with this game. I mean, you literally hear the stuff Dave's talking about. You've got units and single entities on a battlefield down there on the ground, and right from there, and the scale of the battles up to the scale of a region of a planet, to multiple planets in a system, to multiple systems across an entire galaxy. And that's huge even for Total War scale. And it's like we are over the next years going to develop this out, and all the content and everything that fills up that galaxy.
And keep in mind, even though they're talking about, the scale of the galaxy, scale of the game, so on and so forth, I wonder how optimization. I'm a big guy when it comes to PC optimization, so I wonder how optimization is going to hit. Because, I mean, if they're bringing this game to a new engine, which is the Warcore engine, which is the engine that is this will be the first time Total War is ever going to Xbox and PS5. I guess the game should be definitely pretty optimized, considering the fact that they're going to have a lot of units on the field. But come to think of it, though, I mean, consoles can only handle so much versus PC. So, but yeah, that's just my thing. It's optimization. So I was like, y'all better get ready to y'all better have some decent PCs going around here now.
The gameplay and the decisions you make and the way
but we're going to a rough time when it comes to computer components
right from down there all the way across the galaxy.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I think the kind of personalization of your kind of faction, its units, its style, it's even down to its mechanics, right? You're creating your faction, right? You're making something unique and personal to you, obviously attached to, hopefully, but I think that adds so much to us. Like, I haven't seen anyone else really kind of going to quite the depth that we do. Like, you can have different pattern types, you can have kind of different left and right color, you can set your pauldron, or like kind of your knee. Sorry, pauldron's up there. You can set your kneecap to a different color. You can have different decals around your faction. If you want to be a kind of like kind of an Ultramarines fanboy and have kind of like the sigil of Ultramar everywhere, you can do that. It's really fun, and we've generally found anyone who's playing it spends a lot of time on that bit, right? Because you really want to make your own faction and feel that, and it honestly is great. It really, really takes me back a long way.
Finally, of everything we spoke about today, what are you the most excited about for our players to experience?
I think for me it is the customization. I know I've literally just mentioned it, but it keeps coming back as this thing, right? Like everything comes back to this fact that I think for the first time I've made my faction, right? Like they're uniquely mine. There's no one else will have a faction anything like mine, right? Okay, yeah, there'll still be Space Marines, but they're my chapter, right? Like this is my Force Commander who I've kind of personalized. Like I'm
Force Commander.
If I want to have a Space Marine faction that's more about kind of fire mechanics, like I want flamethrowers and melters everywhere, I can make that. I can make a faction that's leaning into that, and that is my kind of way of playing, right? Because I love fire. Fire is great. Normally. But that's the thing, is we're kind of letting you make your own kind of gameplay, essentially, right? Like, here are the problems, here are the challenges that the universe is throwing at you by battles and campaigns and flashpoints, but how do you solve that? How do you build the kind of ultimate faction to kind of deal with any problem that could be thrown at you? I think it's going to give so many kind of hours, maybe even years, hopefully, of like entertainment, of just making cool factions, hopefully sharing it with your friends and stuff like that as well, right? Like, and always comparing your kind of faction designs.
Total War 40K.
I'm really excited by that.
And freaking Dawn of War 4. Holy shit.
As well. But for me as well, it's something that's very different now with Total War, the Crusade Theatre concept, where, we know how long a campaign can go on, how engaged you can be for hundreds of hours. I've done it myself for years, right? And then you go, great, that was a campaign. I invested so much time and effort. Now I'll start. It's very replayable. I'll start another one as a different faction. Great. But now you play that campaign, and that's another part of that jigsaw of your own internal narrative feeding onto a higher layer that moves gradually across the whole sector and then the whole galaxy. To me, it's that whole campaign experience just being a part of your journey, not the whole journey. And to me, that's so fundamentally new. And it just means it's just such a long-term experience beyond even our massive long campaigns for previous years. So that's the bit for me that stands out, I think. Dave?
It's kind
orcs, maybe?
Probably something to do with the orcs. Maybe something to do with explosions.
Probably.
I think it's sort of like a litany of firsts, right? It's like, again, talking about the Lance Strike, it's the first time that you drag a Lance Strike across the battlefield, and the second time, and the third time when you use it to obliterate buildings, to drag across units. That sort of satisfaction is so super, super tangible. It's the first time you shoot a tank, right, and you see it like veer off and hit a building, and again cause a bit more destruction, cause a bit more chaos. It's the first time that you use like a Psyker's ability, right, and sort of like blast apart an opponent, or see orcs teleporting in from somewhere unexpected. A weird boy going pew and jumping a bunch of boys right up in your face, or vice versa.
Okay,
right?
okay.
There's all those moments are in there, and I think there's so much love and care for the source material in there, and I think there's a lot of little bits that people find and kind of go, wow, this is there's some good stuff here.
And that concludes Total War Warhammer 40,000 Developer Roundtable. Big thank you to our developers, our guests today. And then we're going to be back later in 2026, and we will bring you more content. We're going to bring you battles. We're going to bring you campaign.
Nice.
And that's not all. We're going to go into deep dives. We're going to do blogs, videos, and all sorts of Q&As. So we will see you there.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
So thank you so much for tuning in, and another massive thank you from everyone here.
All right. So with that said, I feel like, because this video is going to be hella long already, I feel like that I have already said and gave out my piece on what I think, my opinion, what's going on with Warhammer, with Total War 40K. I feel like they're going in a pretty good direction to mix it up, to give us this grand experience, and I'm really excited for it. But like I said, I'm gonna wait until next year until I see more to kind of get what I, if I really want this, to get this game and also go headstrong into it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below of this video, and also what do you guys think about Total War 40K? Are you guys excited for y'all? Are y'all ready to jump on in? Let me know. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for your support and all you guys do, and I'll see y'all for the next one. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like and also hit the bell notification down below. Thanks for watching.